Greetings and welcome to Shakespeare in Quarantine with the Southern California Shakespeare Festival Guild. As you are well aware, our theater closed, we stopped rehearsals, and postponed our production of The Tempest. I'm sitting here in my living room. However, thanks to green screen, you can see me on the steps of Casa Romantica, and you will see me at many different locations throughout the presentation. My name is Sam Robinson, and I'm a company member with the Southern California Shakespeare Festival Guild, who's in residence at Casa Romantica through 2020 to 2021. We will be presenting Romeo and Juliet here in the living room of Casa Romantica, followed by The Tempest, which will be performed throughout locations across the beautiful grounds and in the historic Casa Romantica rooms. Shakespeare presented many of his works here in the reconstructed Globe Theatre in London. And according to an article in the New Yorker in May, through his most prolific time period between 1606 to 1610, it's likely that the theaters were only open for a few months during that time period due to multiple outbreaks of the Black Plague. So the plague affected Shakespeare in many ways, both personally and professionally. 3 months after his birth in Stratford-upon-Avon, the vicar noted in the registrar of births and deaths, next to the name of a weaver that had passed away of the plague, "Here begins the plague." So Shakespeare thankfully wasn't affected as an infant. However, through his life, he lost friends, he lost family members, including his beloved son Hamnet to the Black Plague. Now, Shakespeare wouldn't have produced a play with the theme of the plague, likely, as the audiences wouldn't have really wanted to see that type of play. However, he did include the plague as subplot in many of his productions, including Romeo and Juliet. You'll notice that Mercutio, as he lay dying of a sword wound in the streets of Verona, says, "A plague on both your houses." In addition, Friar Lawrence sends Friar John with a letter to Romeo, who has been banished to Mantua. And Friar John, unfortunately, is quarantined and isn't able to take the letter to Romeo, hence the tragic ending of Romeo and Juliet. So Romeo and Juliet would have been a familiar story to the London audience, having been a poem written in Italian, and the prologue of Romeo and Juliet sets the scene for the play. So, spoiler alert, there are lots of them in the prologue. However, you, like the audience in Shakespeare's time, are probably pretty familiar with the story of Romeo and Juliet. Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventured piteous overthrows do with their death bury their parents' strife. The fearful passage of their death-marked love and the continuance of their parents' rage, which but their children's end not could remove, is now the 2 hours' traffic of our stage, the which if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. Shakespeare is arguably one of the great writers of Western literature. He wrote plays with amazing character study, beautiful plots, but he also wrote poetry, and among them was sonnets. This prologue, you might have noticed, is indeed a sonnet. And sonnets are composed of 14 lines of iambic pentameter, A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, and G. The final two, the G's, are a rhyming couplet. But you'll notice that A rhymes with A, so dignity rhymes with mutiny. B rhymes with B, seen and unclean. And each line typically has 10 syllables of stressed and unstressed syllables, much like our heartbeat. Two households both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our scene. So, speaking of heartbeats, we will be returning to Casa Romantica in February for our touring production of Romeo and Juliet on February 11th and February 12th. And I leave you with a challenge. So, Romeo and Juliet has a prologue at the beginning of Act 1, a prologue at the beginning of Act 2, a sonnet at the beginning of the prologue for Act 1, and a sonnet for the prologue for Act 2. And it has an additional sonnet within the body of the play, and I challenge you to find that. So as a teaser to our two presentations, we now move on to a couple of other company members from the Southern California Shakespeare Festival. First, Rosalind, who will be presenting a Lady Capulet monologue. And here you see the tourist attraction of Juliet's balcony in Verona, followed by a monologue by Rebecca, who will be playing Miranda. And Miranda and Prospero are stranded on a beautiful Bermuda island. And so I look forward to seeing you in February for Romeo and Juliet, and June 17th and 18th for The Tempest. And that's enough gab for now. Enjoy.
Hello, my name is Rosalind Glasgow. I'll be doing Lady Capulet's monologue from Act 1, Scene 3. Here in Verona, ladies of esteem are already made mothers. By my count, I was your mother much upon the years that you are now a maid. Thus in brief, the valiant Paris seeks you for his love. What says you? Could you love the gentleman? This night, behold him at our feast. Read over the volume of young Paris' face and find delight writ there with beauty's pen. This precious book of love, this unbound lover. To beautify him only lacks a cover. This book in many eyes doth share the glory, so shall you share all that he doth possess, by having him making yourself no less. Speak briefly. What says you? Could you like of Paris' love?
Hello, my name is Rebecca Ramirez, and I'll be doing a monologue as Miranda from The Tempest. Miranda is a 15-year-old girl who has spent 12 years of her life on an island, isolated, with her father, Prospero, a sorcerer, and their servant, Caliban. She's known to be an innocent, naive, gentle girl, yet in this moment she shows defiance toward her father for what she believes is his participation in a horrible tragedy, a tempest that disrupts the sea and destroys a ship and all of its passengers. If by your art, my dearest father, you have put the wild waters in this roar, allay them. The sky, it seemed, would pour down stinking pitch, but that the sea, mounting to the welkin's cheek, dashes the fire out. I have suffered with those that I saw suffer. A brave vessel, who no doubt had noble creatures in her, dashed all to pieces. The cries did knock against my very heart. Poor souls, they perished. Had I been any god of power, I would have sunk the sea within the earth, or ere it should the good ship so have swallowed, and the frauding souls within her. Woe the day